Well, what happened, he got involved with the coal business. He would bring coal in from the mountains, and the coal would come on railroad cars, and he would have coal trucks that would go down, and they would unload the coal, and he had a coal yard. So the big companies in Springfield, at that time, coal was what was important as far as the heating. And so they would buy coal from him. He had coal trucks, and the gentlemen who worked for him, he gave them work. They had work to do. As far as employment, he provided employment for them at that time, and quite a few. He had 4 or 5 of them, and I remember them very vividly. And my father had a grocery store, which was more like what you would call Kroger's at that time. He had a very important grocery store, and in the neighborhood, the people would come around from the various parts of the city to buy groceries from him, because he would have certain groceries that certain parts of the community wanted. And I remember my mother was always a very kind woman. She was very kind, and she taught us to be kind. So if somebody would come in and they didn't have much money, or they had children with them, she would give them extra. If they wanted meat, she'd give them extra meat. Or if they wanted vegetables, she would give them extra vegetables. And every now and then my father would see her doing it, and he would say, "Good God, I'll never make any money. You're giving everything away." The rink was open air. It was no windows. Everything was open up for the summer. It was hot weather. There was no air conditioning at that time. So they would just raise the windows, and it was open air, and you could watch the children skating. The adults and children skating. And we would look forward to going to that several times a week in the evening, and we would just sit. I wanted to roller skate too. I wanted to know why I couldn't roller skate. I would go up to the window, and they would have refreshments that you could buy, something outdoors. They would sell it to you. And the little girl said, little girl, the lady said to me behind the concession, who was selling the different things, "Why don't you ever come and skate? You come here all the time." And I went back and I asked my mother and father, "Well, why can't I go in there and skate?" And you know what they told me? "You're colored. You can't skate in there." So I was very disappointed. I couldn't understand. Well, I knew prejudice and segregation, because I knew what you had to do if you wanted to go to some of these places. And my father was a very active person, and he really stood up for what he believed in. So what he said, "Well, you know what? You want to skate." There was one family here who had a roller rink. That was the first black skating rink they had. And I don't know whether they had it in a garage or where. I can't remember what it was. But they were the first ones that had the roller skating rink. The bishop heard about it. James Haskell heard about it. James Haskell Mayo heard about it. And he told my father, he said, "Well, there's a skating rink there in business, but I don't know if they're going to go out, and it's so far removed that people may not be able to get to it." So he said to my dad and my mother that you might want to check it out and see if you would be interested in a skating rink in Dayton. Because when my father told me, when I asked to go to the one there in Springfield, "You're colored," he said, "Well, hell, I'll build you a skating rink." So that's how he and my brother got involved talking about a skating rink. That's how it got started. So he took it from there. My father started the skating rink in '48, okay. So then we decided we needed another rink, so we did it in 1964. So I was involved at the skating rink from '48. I worked in the check room. From 48 until now, I've always been in the skating rink. So I ran it just like I ran school, and people will tell you that, oh, boy, she was really hard on you if you didn't behave yourself. If they get rough and want to go fast, I tell them, you're not going to hurt anybody. So it was like going to school, but they loved it because parents would say, look, I can send my kid there. Girls would say, I'm safe. I don't have to worry. So we said we're running a skating rink that's going to be following rules and regulations. We want everybody to have a good time, but we're not going to have anybody going fast, skating too fast, running into somebody. If you do that, you're going to sit down or you're going to get put out. So they had a choice. So I went to UD and majored in educational administration for my master's, first master's. Then I decided, okay, the more I got involved in school and meeting counselors in different places, well, I always admired the people who were up, who were successful in their field and went to the top. So I said, well, I like guidance counseling. I like my counselor. They're very nice to work with. So I said, well, maybe I want to be a counselor. And then, okay, I've got a master's in guidance counseling. Then I thought about it, and I said, well, I worked a little longer, and I said, well, the way it happened, and this would be interesting, Justice Gooding's wife was at the University of Dayton. And she was getting her master's also. And I was always very friendly there were not that many blacks out there, so I was always looking for another black person with whom to relate. So she was in school psychology. And Jessie said, you know what you want to do? You want to go into school psychology. She said, that is great. You will love school psychology. She said you'd be good for it. So I said, okay, let me check it out. So the people who were in charge of the school psychology program, they were very excellent people. They're very encouraging. And there was only one, though, however, who was she kind of favored white people over black people, although she was nice to me because I let her know that I expect the same treatment these other students are getting who were in the school psychology program, because she didn't want many blacks in there. Now, my husband was in it also. She liked him. And they talked about different things that, her interest. So she let him come into the program and was nice. But I let her know that, this is what I expect to be treated like everybody. I was like my father and my mother both. We didn't tolerate any discrimination. We would stand up and fight it. Getting an education is important to improve your mind. They're saying young people don't need an education, they can get a job. If you're not educated, unfortunately, you may be shortchanged because it teaches you to look at life with critical thinking skills, and we don't have critical thinking skills where we can look at an argument and weigh it and decide what side makes sense. So critical thinking skills are very important. So in education, if you only go 2 years, if you go 1 year, it opens your mind up. It opens you up to a new world. Now, everybody can't get an education, but there are other things you can do. You can make it in business. You can get into the right kind of business. You can go to training schools, get trained for certain types of business. So don't get discouraged because you can't. Sometimes I get cross-minded about what's going on and emphasize it because it's so important to me. But I don't want young people to think that they cannot be as successful if they do not get an education, because the world is theirs. When you're young, youth is on your side, so they can be whatever they want to be that they feel they're suited for.